Grabación, perfecto.
Okay, great. So I think I just heard a translator translating.
Yep, I'm going to fix that.
Okay, I think it's Caroline, maybe.
Yep. Okay, I think that should be all set now.
Okay, great. So good evening, everybody. My name is Mara Papiel. I'm the Director of Student Support Services for Quincy Public Schools. And it really is a privilege to have Walker Therapeutics here with us tonight. We have Amy Goulart, who's a clinician with Walker, and I'm sorry, Tayani Goulart and Amy Ballin, clinicians from Walker here tonight. And they did a fantastic job sharing, with us some support to help caregivers support their children with anxiety. So this is part 2. Don't worry about it if you didn't see part 1. I think there's a little bit of a review and an opportunity for people to communicate in the chat feature. And the panelists will be able to see the chat. And, I know that the presenters are really good about answering and interacting with the chat feature. So please feel free to put anything, questions, comments in the chat. We also have translation available. You can see the little interpretation sign at the bottom of your screen. So you can go onto that and select the appropriate language. And with that, I will hand it over to the presenters. Thank you so much.
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's so good to spend another time with you here. I'm talking about understanding and addressing your child's anxiety. My name is Tayani Golar, and I am a licensed mental health clinician working with Walker Solutions. I'm going to pass it to my coworker here just to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone, Amy Ballin, and I'm also thrilled to be here and impressed with the commitment of Quincy Public Schools to really reach out to parents. Anxiety is one of the most common mental health challenges that we deal with, and it's very, very challenging for a parent. So appreciate you all being here. Hope you'll ask tons and tons of questions. We'll be paying attention to the chat, and we're looking forward to spending this time with you.
So as Maura has shared, it's all right if you weren't able to join our first webinar meeting. We do have that recording available for you. So if you need to reference that at any point, that is available through the Quincy Public Schools. So this evening, our agenda will include a welcome to you all. We will go through a guided meditation, a quick review of the key concepts that we discussed when it came to supporting and understanding your child's anxiety, go through any questions that have come up for folks since the last time that we met, listen to a little bit of a share out for anyone who would like to discuss any strategies that they shared having tried in their home with their family, and discuss some common examples in practice, how we can support a young person who's experiencing anxiety of different ages. So starting off, I would like to take us through a guided meditation here. And so I'm going to be following some steps for you to follow through your thought process and with your body. I'm going to stop my screen sharing really quickly, just so you can focus on me. And I welcome you to take a moment and settle into whatever seat you're in, or if you're on a couch, wherever you are at this moment. I'd like you to settle into a comfortable position and allow your eyes to close or keep them open with a softened gaze. Begin by taking several long, slow, deep breaths, breathing in fully and exhaling fully. Breathe in through your nose and out through your nose or mouth. Allow your breath to find its own natural rhythm. Bring your full attention to noticing each in-breath as it enters your nostrils, travels down your lungs, and causes your stomach to expand. And notice with each exhale as your belly contracts and air moves up through your lungs, back up through your nostrils or your mouth. And I invite you to get your full attention to the flow with your breath. So take a few inhales and exhales and bring your attention to your breath here. Notice how the inhale is different from the exhale. You may experience the air as it's cool as it enters your nose and warm as you exhale. As you turn more deeply inward, begin to let go of the noises that are around you. If you're distracted by any sounds in your room, simply notice them and bring your intention back to your breath. Simply breathe as you breathe, not looking to change anything about your breath. Don't try to control your breath in any way. I want you to observe and accept your experience in this moment without any judgment, paying attention to each inhale and exhale. If your mind wanders to thoughts, plans, or problems, simply notice your mind wandering here. Watch the thought as it enters your awareness as neutrally as possible. Then practice letting go of the thought as if it was a leaf flowing down a stream. In your mind, place each thought that arises on a leaf and watch it as it floats out of sight down the stream. Then bring your attention back to your breath. Your breath is an anchor you can return to over and over again when you become distracted by thoughts. Notice when your mind has wandered here. Observe the types of thoughts that hook or distract you. Practice coming home to the breath with your full attention, watching the gentle rise of your stomach on the inhale and the relaxing letting go on your exhale. Allow yourself to be completely with your breath as it flows in and out. You might notice some feelings arising, maybe happiness or sadness, frustration or contentment. Acknowledge whatever comes up, including thoughts or stories about your day. Notice where your mind went without judging it, pushing it away, clinging to it, or wishing it was different. And simply focus on your mind and guide your attention back to your breath here. So breathe in and breathe out. Follow the air all the way into your lungs and all the way out. Mindfully be present moment by moment with your breath. And as this practice comes to an end, slowly allow your attention to expand and notice your entire body, and then beyond your body to the room that you are in. When you're ready, open your eyes and come back fully alert to the space that we're in sharing this evening. Knowing that your breath is always with you as a tool to bring you back to the present moment. And set your intention to use this practice throughout the day, this evening, or another time this week as you're looking to bring yourself back through a guided meditation. I'm going to reshare my screen here. So thanks everyone for participating in that meditation. This is something that we had talked about during our first time together a couple of weeks ago, how breath and meditation can be a wonderful strategy to try with your child at home. This can be a great opportunity for you to have a check-in with them at the end of the day, or maybe at the start of the day, when you're noticing that they're feeling some anxiety, when they're maybe a little bit worried. This is something that you can practice at home. This is something that you can use at your dinner table as one of your strategies. And there are many resources available online, including the ones that we have here. So these are some slides that will be shared with you and links that you can access to try out different types of meditations, either ones that you would like to read through or ones that you would like to watch with your child or listen to at home. So thanks for participating in that centering activity as we get our time started today. All right, our objectives for this evening include identifying strategies introduced in our last workshop, applying those strategies introduced in our last workshop, and identifying new ways to understand anxiety. So a couple of points for us to review as we get started here include the 4 Ds of the disorder. So we were talking about the 4 Ds of the disorder when it came to identifying whether your child's experience is anxiety, if it's something that is standing out, if it is something for us to worry about. So this is something that Dr. Oreen Wagner had referenced in our time together. So the 4 Ds of this disorder include disproportion. So that is the reaction, is the response out of proportion to what is that stressor, to what is bothering your child. Then we have disruption. So what type of impact is it having on your child's ability to work through whatever they need to address that day? So maybe that's getting to school, maybe it's getting to a practice or to an activity outside of the home. Next is duration. So is it something that is lasting for a while? Is this something that is constantly coming up as a stressful experience for your child, going through anxiety? And then finally, distress. So is your child experiencing distress in that moment? Is maybe the family being impacted by what is happening as well? So those are the things for us to consider when we're thinking about and trying to understand what those presenting signs are that we're seeing with our child. Is there anything you'd like to add, Amy?
No.
Okay.
No, all good.
All right. So reviewing a couple of additional concepts from our last time together, we had left everyone with the points to allow your child to take charge of their anxiety, going through RIDE, which we will revisit this evening as a strategy, practice, so knowing that it takes time to work through anxiety, encourage your child to have malleability and flexibility, so trying out different thinking, different from that all or nothing thinking, different from that perfectionistic thinking. So what is considered good enough? Where can they be a little bit more flexible? And also instilling the message of hope that anxiety can change and it's something that they can take charge of and something they can practice and address.
All right, so we wanted to just give a little space, although again, welcome to ask questions anytime. But if there was anyone who was here last time or who saw the recording, who had a chance to try something out and had a question or had a response like, yeah, I tried that thing and it didn't work at all, or yeah, I tried that and it was great. So just want to pause for a moment and give anyone a chance to try something out. And I always say one of the easiest places to start is meditation, because it's not a heavy lift. And if you can just even get your child to, right before they go to bed or right before they go to school, whatever their most anxious time is, just to take a couple of breaths and focus on the breathing makes a big difference. So I'm not seeing anything in the chat. So we're gonna kind of move on, but again, please feel comfortable to put anything in there that you would like. So we wanted to kind of give some examples of how you might use the strategies that we went over last time. And we know not everyone was with us, so we're going to review a few of the strategies and with a case example of how you might work something out. So we're going to start with an elementary example. So this is a situation, an elementary school student who won't get on the bus. So that may be won't get out of the house to walk to the bus, or once at the bus stop, won't get on the bus. It could be all those different things. And we talked last time about parent accommodation. We talked about, we had a slide we showed about what parents can do to support their child, which we're reinforcing today, but also sometimes how parents get in the way a little bit. So anxiety is this interesting thing where is if we don't confront it and we don't address it, it just gets worse. I've seen people, young people have had a lot of anxiety issues when they're young, they don't address them, and it just gets a lot worse as they get older. So you don't want to ignore the problem. You don't want to walk on eggshells when your child's anxious. So this parent accommodation is the term that we used last time. And in this situation, it would be driving your kid to school. So I've worked in schools for many, many years, and I can't tell you how many times a parent would come to me and say, you know, so-and-so wouldn't get on the bus, and so they drive the kid to school. And the kid's always late because they spent all this time at home trying to get on the bus, couldn't get the kid on the bus, and finally the parent gets so frustrated they have to go to work or whatever, and they drive the kid to school. And then lo and behold, they've reinforced the anxiety and they start driving the kid to school every day because it worked the first time, it's going to work the second. So we don't know at this point what is causing the anxiety. It could be something going on the bus. It could be some irrational thoughts like the bus is going to get in an accident, I'm going to die. It could be kids bullying on the bus. We don't really know. But we do know that something's going on because the kid doesn't want to get on the bus. And by the parent driving, we are just trying to get around the problem, but it won't go away. So in those two, we have two little bubbles, one on the upper right with the heart, that we always, through this whole process, want to give the message of change and hope. So always be thinking about that. I know I have 3 kids of my own. I know, and one who's very anxious. I know it can get really, really frustrating dealing with an anxious child. The reality is there are times we just can't make them do something, and it's really frustrating. And so the other bubble says, don't use this as the time to skill build. So in other words, bear with me here. Here we are at the house. It's time to get on the bus. It's time to go to the bus stop. And your kid won't go. I don't want to go. I don't want, can you drive me? I don't want to go. Please drive me. Please, please drive me. Can you please just drive me this one time? So the conversation starts going like that. And what you want to do at this time is you might accommodate. I wouldn't drive, but you might just say, you know, if you can't get on the bus, you're not going to be able to get to school today, right? That's sort of a direct consequence. If the problem is the bus and not the school. If the problem is the school, that's a whole nother issue, but the kid probably wouldn't want to drive then. So again, I don't really, you know, I'm making up a problem. So what you do want to do is when you're not in the moment. So when you're in the moment, it's the breathing, it's the understanding. I hear that you don't want to go. I get that that's really hard. And you just kind of be there with them doing what we call co-regulating, right? So just trying to keep that breath, keep yourself calm and keep breathing, and the kid will calm down as well. What you do want to do is in another time, maybe in the evening or later in the day, you want to see if we can figure out what is going on. So you can ask the child, you know, what happened today? Why was it hard for you to get on the bus? What's going on? If the child can identify the problem, so in my example here, the child says, well, everyone on the bus teases me, and I don't want to go on the bus because they're going to all be mean to me. And then we can look at scale of the problem. Do you want to flip that slide up, Tayani? Do we have that there easily? Or do we not put it there? We have ride first, I think. So scale of the problem just to review from last time, is it a speed bump? Is it hill or is it a mountain? And that's just a visual to try to think about in this situation. Everyone on the bus is going to tease you, like every single person, including the bus driver, like everyone. Probably not, right? So helping the child think about, well, exactly who would be teasing you? Is it maybe two people, like trying to get it from the mountain, everyone on the bus will tease me, down to just a speed bump? There might be one or two kids who might tease you. Thank you, Tani. We can go back to that other one. So we want to try to use scale of the problem. Again, this is not in the moment. This is later when we're talking about it. So try to change that thinking a little bit and think about how big of a problem is this really. So then we go to the ride, and we use this also if the child doesn't know the problem. If the child's, excuse me, which happens a lot. I don't know. I don't know why I don't want to go to the bus. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know. Right. And maybe later when they're calmed down, they sometimes can say, but if they don't know, or they know we've done scale problem, then we go back to the ride. And Tiny, can you show that to us again? Part of what we're doing with ride is we're trying to normalize that we all have anxiety and we just have to address it and deal with it. And if we do it, as it says, one breath at a time, eventually the anxiety lessens. And that's the goal. It may not fully go away, but it lessens. So in the red, just to review, that is when we continue with our anxiety cycle. So that's when I don't want to go on the bus. The bus is the trigger. I don't go on the bus. I avoid going on the bus. I get driven to school, or I just don't go to school. And then the next time the bus comes around the next day, I'm going to have the same stressors. But if I push myself, I rename the thought, well, maybe not everyone on the bus is going to tease me. Maybe it's just one person, and I know the bus driver won't. I'm in charge of my anxiety. I'm in charge of my thoughts. I'm going to go get on that bus. I can do this. And then you get on the bus and you coast, as she says, Orrin Wagner. So using that ride, and again, you don't do it in the moment, you do it at a different time. And then if the child can do this every time and you can review this every time, eventually it gets easier. Because what we've done is we've changed the thinking. So much anxiety is about our thinking, right? The thinking that everyone on the bus is going to tease me. Well, not everyone. Change that, rename that thought to maybe one person will, but I know the bus driver won't. We can go back, Tayani, to the other slide. Okay, so once we've done that, we do want to continue practicing our breathing skills. So when you're starting to think about going on that bus, or when we're approaching that bus, the student has now agreed, okay, I'm going to try this. I want to go to school. I want to be able to ride the bus. I'm going to give this a try. Then the strategy is when you get up to the edge of the bus and you feel those thoughts and those feelings rushing in, you just practice that breathing. So you breathe in and out. You do the finger breathing we talked about last time. And then you do the best you can. So you keep trying. So if in this example, it's the bus and you get your child to leave the house and walk halfway to the bus stop before they have a panic attack, that's an accomplishment if they weren't able to do that before, and you celebrate that. You go, we're going to try again tomorrow. Tomorrow's a new day. We're going to try again. And maybe the next day they get all the way, but they can't get on the bus. You celebrate that. And eventually they will be able to do it. It's a slow process. It requires a lot of patience on the part of the parent. And it also requires understanding about anxiety. Anxiety takes over your thoughts. All of a sudden you're thinking every single kid on the bus hates me and is going to tease me. Instead of renaming that thought, maybe it's only one or two kids and the bus driver will definitely be nice to me. If there's questions about that example, we can put them in the chat, how to use some of these strategies. And if not, Tyani's going to go on and share another example.
I do see that there is one hand raised from one of our attendees.
Oh, that's nice. I don't see that, so that's good. Glad you do. Can you see who that is?
It looks like the name listed here is Ruling iPhone.
Oh, yep. Do you want to say something?
Can you give her the ability to do that? I think you need to give her.
I did, yeah, I did. But they might be in they may be in the interpretation room. And so then we can't hear them. So they might need to put
Oh.
their question in the chat.
Or can the interpreter give us the question?
Okay, so that would be a question for Sandy. If any participants had a question for Sandy, I did give that person permission to talk. But I guess it's also possible, since they were on an iPhone, that raising the hand might not have been deliberate.
Yep, yep, or out of range or whatever, which happens on phones. So anyways, we're here, and just the chat's there, or raise a hand again, and we're happy to answer any questions, even if we're in mid-sentence. We love questions.
Mhm.
So we'll move on, and Tiny will talk about a middle school example.
All right, so a common middle school example is the stomach ache, or we can think about a headache. Think of those somatic symptoms that we hear. A stomach ache, I can't get out of bed, I can't go to school this morning, I don't feel well, my head hurts. So this might be something that you hear at home. You're up in the morning, you're trying to get your child out of bed, get them ready, have breakfast, get dressed to head to school. And maybe it's as soon as you wake them up, maybe it's as they're getting ready to leave the house, they suddenly develop a stomach ache or a headache, something like that. And they're just letting you know, I don't feel well, I can't go to school. And so a couple of things can go through our mind here. One is, is this a pattern that I'm seeing, or is this all of a sudden my child isn't feeling well? So there are a couple of different routes that we want to take depending on that. One of the things for us to consider is if this is something that you have not heard before, if your child had not shared with you before that they were not feeling well, maybe this is out of the blue, then we want to consider, does my child need to go to the doctor? Am I able to take them to a doctor's appointment? Is this something that maybe they do need to stay home from school today? The other thing for us to consider is this something maybe every Monday morning my child has a stomach ache, or every time there is an exam at school, my child has a stomach ache, or, oh, I know my child's favorite teacher is out today and they have a substitute teacher and they have a stomach ache. So there's a couple of things that we want to do at home to sort of assess what might be going on for our child, and then follow kind of a couple of different directions from there. So like I mentioned, if this is something that is new and we're really not sure, we're noticing that there are other symptoms going on here with their stomach ache, then of course we want to reach out to their primary care provider, try to get an appointment with the doctor. Maybe we are calling them out of school sick for that day. On the other hand, if this is something that we are questioning, if it's related to their anxiety, typically that parent accommodation, like Amy had mentioned before, is that we would call our child out sick from school. We're accommodating them and allowing them to stay home for the day. Even, and this would be in response to possibly them experiencing anxiety in that morning. So if your child won't tell you what the problem is, and they continue to share with you that they have a stomach ache, I don't feel well, I can't go to school today, and it's getting to 7:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock, 8:30, and you also know, I need to get my day going. So that first step is, do they need to go to the doctor? From there, if we are wondering, if there's a possibility that they're experiencing anxiety related to something. And maybe they won't tell you what the problem is. So different from that elementary school example, a lot of times for that age group, they might not know what the problem is. They might not know what is bothering them, or they might not know how to articulate it or communicate it to us in a way that we understand. And so in this scenario with our middle school kids, they typically do know what the problem is, and they typically do know how to communicate that to us in some fashion. So here, it's really about them choosing to not tell you what that problem is. So we can go into RIDE. So I'm going to bring us back to that screen. So in this example, our child has a stomach ache. They're not telling us what's going on for them. We are wondering, are they experiencing anxiety? Because this is the 5th Monday in a row where they're saying that they have a stomach ache, they have a headache, they can't go to school today. And so we want to go through RIDE. So renaming the thought, we want to talk with them about, is it a discomfort related to going back to school on Monday, going back into your routine? So renaming that thought, I'm nervous about going back to school today because Monday mornings are really hard for me. It's really hard to leave the weekend and go back into school on Monday morning, where I know there's going to be a lot of expectations on me and I have to follow a schedule. And my first class on Monday morning is the hardest class of the day. And I don't really get along with any kids that are in my classroom. So really helping your child rename that thought. Then moving on to insisting that they're in charge. So are there, where in their day can they really master what they're going through? So they can take charge of that experience. They know their schedule. This is something that's familiar to them. They go back to school every Monday morning. They know what that routine is. And this is something that they could check in with maybe their school counselor at the start of the day, really supporting them and figuring out where they're able to take charge to move through that anxiety and really challenge those feelings that they're having. And then next would be to defy anxiety and do the opposite. So in this case, it would be to push through here, to push through and decide to move into your school day, even if it's for any amount of time. That's the thing that we want to get to, is that we want to consider what is good enough in order to push through that anxiety. So if we know those Monday mornings are really hard and there's a pattern of Monday morning being hard, could your child go to school maybe for that first period? Or if they can't get into that first period, can they make it to second period and stay for 45 minutes for a class period, or get through to lunchtime? Or maybe they're dismissed like right after lunchtime. So it could be possible that they're going to the preferred classes, knowing that those things are okay and those are a part of riding the anxiety wave, and part of defying anxiety and doing the opposite here. And then finally is enjoying the victory. Even if they went to school for a half hour and maybe they walked in the door and they met with their school counselor, or maybe they met with the principal who they have a good relationship with, we're going to celebrate that success. It really matters that they defied that anxiety, that they tried, they pushed through here. So that's what it would look like if we are using RIDE in that instance. Let me move back forward here. Let's go back to our example. So from here, we also want to support our child with taking those deep breaths and holding that breath. So as we go through RIDE, they're finding that they're still anxious, and we want to offer some additional strategies to see if they can move on with that day to really work through that anxiety. So some co-regulating, taking deep breaths together. Maybe we're using that 5-finger breathing if that connects with our child. Usually around this middle school age, it might be more helpful to talk more so about deep breaths and what it means to breathe in and hold for a count of 4, and then breathe out for a count of 4. and do that for a few different cycles at whatever pace works for your child. And then try again, seeing if we can push through, seeing if we can consider what is that class period that you can get to today, knowing that they're able to do this and really encouraging them through this. It's possible that in this moment, maybe you're engaging in some challenges when it comes to, I need to leave, I need to go to work, and you need to get to school. I'm not able to call you out of school again today. This is the 5th absence. This isn't going to work. It's possible that in that moment, that is not the time for us to skill build. If there is a lot of stress going on in that moment, it's really difficult. It might be that we just engage with those deep breaths for that moment, talk about what is our plan. So are we calling the child out sick? And then revisiting that later in the day. It's really helpful for us to work on skills when we are in a good space, meaning when we're regulated, when we're feeling okay. That's a great time for us to work on skills. And so maybe it's not the right time for us to go through utilizing the ride, but it's possible that we can revisit that at another point in the day. The other thing for us to consider is if your child shares with you, I have a stomachache, I can't go to school today, kids are talking about me. So there's a rumor spreading. They do identify the problem. They tell us about what's going on at school. They let us know, I went to the school dance on Friday and somebody asked me to dance and I said no. And now everybody's talking about me. I'm uncomfortable. People are gossiping at school. They're saying that I have a crush on someone. I do not have a crush on that person. I don't know that person, and I'm really uncomfortable. So they don't want to show up to school because of the experience that they're having with their peers, with this rumor spreading about them. And so from there, we'd really like to go into using scale of the problem. So going back to that, problem scaling, talking about, is it a speed bump, is it a hill, or is it a mountain? When your child says, everybody's talking about me, everyone in my class is talking about me, when I walk into school, I know they've been sending messages. I've got all these text messages on my phone. I'm seeing messages on social media about what happened at the dance over the weekend. Then we want to talk with our child. Well, what does this problem really look like? When you're saying that everyone is talking about you, who are the people that know about what happened? It's possible that, yes, some kids might be talking about what happened at school. And who are those people? Are they your friends? Are they people maybe that you see in passing in the hallway? And really trying to make sense with them about how big of a problem this is. And then from scaling that problem, moving back into ride and following through with our steps in ride, taking those deep breaths and trying again. Always trying to practice these skills and revisiting them over and over again. It might be that it takes a couple of cycles here to move forward. And it might be also that in this moment, you only take those deep breaths and you move on and you revisit it at another time. So always knowing that we are looking for that message of change and hope. And so with what's happening here, it's important to communicate that maybe your child's not always going to feel like this, that there are things that they can try in order to feel better on these Monday mornings, and that you'd really like to try that out with them. Let's practice that. Let's prepare the night before. What are we going to do tomorrow in order for us to get our day started? And then finally, we have the ABC process to use afterwards to process the event that happened. And so let's go back to the ABC worksheet. This is something that we talked about the last time we met. This is something that you would use after an event with your child. So this is for you to support your child in moving step by step through their decision making and through what happened. And so in this instance, your child has a stomach ache. They're letting us know there's a rumor that's happening at school. They can't go to school. They can't show up. They don't want to go to that first period of the day. And so that activating event, we're going to talk through this with them. We want them to break down what happened and what went through their mind and what they're experiencing from what happened. And so that activating event, what happened and what was their immediate interpretation. So in this example, what happened is that a rumor got started at school following the school dance. Your child shared with you, I'm feeling like everybody is paying attention to me. Everybody thinks that I have a crush on somebody else. I don't know who that person is. Everybody's going to be picking on me. There are so many messages happening on Snapchat about what happened at school this weekend. Next is talking through their beliefs. What were their rational and irrational beliefs? And so maybe they share with you, I have no friends. No one wants to hang out with me anymore because of what happened. They don't want to be associated with me. I'm alone. I'm feeling isolated. I don't want to go to school because that means that I'm not going to have someone to sit with in class. People are going to be ignoring me. Everybody's going to be talking about it. And that's the only thing that I'm going to pay attention to when I'm in class today. And then finally, those consequences. So how did your child feel? What healthy or unhealthy actions did they take? And so maybe they share with you, I feel alone. I feel embarrassed. I feel ashamed of what happened. And those actions, it's possible they'll share with you, I didn't go to school. I avoided school that day. I wasn't able to get out of the house because I had a stomach ache. And really here, it's recognizing that a stomach ache is a real thing, right? Having a stomach ache or having a headache is a real experience. And through this process here, when we're supporting them and addressing the stomach ache or this headache, what we're trying to do is recognize that those things can be caused by anxiety. So when we know that it's not medically related, when we've cleared it through going to a doctor's appointment, we want to recognize that these things can be caused by anxiety. They're very much a real experience to have a headache and to not feel well, or have a stomach ache and not feel well. And so those anxiety can be addressed, right? It goes back to that message of change and hope. You can address this anxiety in an attempt to lessen that stomach ache that pops up every Monday morning, or that headache that pops up every Monday morning. So that's how we can utilize the ABC worksheet to process the event afterwards. We're going to go into our next example here, talking about high school.
And I'll just add something here because I had an anxious child who would have stomach aches. But what's interesting in my situation is the stomach aches happened after school ended. So when summer hit, and he was just having stomach aches. He didn't know why, like every day. And so I had ongoing conversations with the doctor to figure it out. And finally, the doctor and I together realized it was because school ended and he was really sad not to see his friends. And so there's all different ways that, and this, again, the stomach ache was real, but as soon as we figured out what it was, and I talked to him about it, the stomach aches went away. So it's really helpful to figure it out. Okay, high school, we came up with, kind of some school refusal stuff. Happens a lot in high school. Kids stop going to school, harder to get them there. And there could be a million reasons. Obviously, social is a big one. It could be if you're in a play, we said stage, it could be MCAS, AP class, test, stress of that, any kind of testing. And the social situation is kind of similar to what Tayane talked about. The parent accommodation, again, would be calling the kid out sick or driving the student later so they miss that stress. I used to work in a school and a kid would come in, the mother would drive the kid every day at 9. He would miss his first period class, which he didn't like. It stressed him out. It's like, that was an ongoing pattern. That's clearly not addressing the stress. So in the same way that we've talked about the other ones, we'd use some similar strategies. The ABC, again, would be used after the problem. So in this case, say it was a theater thing and the kid doesn't go to school because they're anxious about theater. They feel like they're not going to remember their part and they're going to be embarrassed. And the consequence in that case could be that they lose their role in the theater production if they're not showing up, right? So using that ABC again, using that scale of the problem, whatever, if it's a test, it's like the fear of not doing well. And that's where we get into that flexibility and malleability piece. It's like, okay, so what if you fail? What if you fail the test? What does that mean? Is that a mountain? Does it mean your life is over? Or is it more of a speed bump, like you failed one test, right? And maybe you can talk to the teacher about why you didn't do well, maybe you have an opportunity. So trying to, again, scale the problem out, how big is it really? And also dealing with that flexibility and malleability. Like maybe that's okay if you didn't do well, or in the example of theater, if you forget your lines, maybe you can just say, I forgot my lines. I got nervous and I forgot them, right? So allowing yourself that flexibility and malleability. The other one with the older kids, we wanted to talk about using that anxiety cycle. So Tiny, can you flip that one up? The anxiety cycle again, and this is the important piece that, again, not in the moment, that another time we're asking our kid if we could sit down for a minute and just really talk about what happened and talk about how anxiety works, normalize it. We all have anxiety. And when it gets in the way, remember the 4Ds, then that becomes a problem. And that's when it's interfering with our life. And generally, it doesn't feel good. So again, with his anxiety, say, what words or image? What are the thoughts? What are the thoughts that you're having? Thought is, I may forget my lines, and so I don't want to go to play rehearsal. The behavior in this case would be you don't go. And then what they're feeling afterwards is probably a lot of disappointment in themselves because they didn't go. And if they lose the part, et cetera, more disappointment, right? So helping someone kind of work through how this anxiety cycle works and breaking that cycle at any one of those points, right? So if your thoughts are, everyone's going to laugh at me because I don't know my lines, it's trying to change that to, maybe I'll be a little embarrassed, but it's not going to, be the end of the world, basically. And maybe I am going to try to push myself to go, even though I don't want to, and it's really hard. And that might make me feel good that I pushed. So again, it's always those small steps. We want to reward them. We want to have that idea of hope. You go back to the other slide, Tayani. Thank you. And again, we always go back to the breathing. So if you're going to push yourself to get to school, to get to that play rehearsal, before you walk into that auditorium or wherever the play, just take a couple of deep breaths. So what we know, I think we talked about this last time, is when you take the lungs, right? The lungs have an upper and a lower portion. When you breathe from the upper portion, when you're hyperventilating and you're breathing really fast, that affects the nerves and it makes you more anxious, actually, right? It's a physiological reaction. When you can breathe deeper, then your lungs are activating nerves in the lower part of your lung, and that actually helps to decrease the anxiety, decrease the feeling, or increase the feeling of being more relaxed. So the breathing is, we feel like we've said it over and over again because it's like the easiest thing to do and it really works. I'm going to pause there for a second and just see if there are any questions about our examples or other examples that you might have that you're looking to try to figure out. Okay, we're gonna just move on with kind of a summary again, a review. I think that's the next slide, is it? Yes, Tayani. Same slide as you saw before. We're just reiterating the same things because they work. In the center, that anxiety can change and hope. That's the mindset for the parent. or the caregiver. That's what you can do. You can help instill that mindset in the child. Sometimes anxiety just feels overwhelming. It takes over. I have no control over it. I can't do anything. It's scary. And you want to keep instilling the idea that anxiety can change and this idea of hope. It's just a mindset. And the more you can do that, and the more you can remain calm about it, the easier it'll be for your child. I think I gave an example last time of a child who had selective mutism, so didn't speak in school, and the parents would talk for the child because it was just too painful. Well, that message for that child is, you can't do it, so we're going to do it for you. That's parent accommodation. We don't want to be doing that. Remembering the ride is a way to really explain how to conquer anxiety, how to get through it using that. And then the orange, allowing your child to deal with their anxiety. So in the example I just gave you, where the parent is speaking for the child, they're not allowing the child to take charge of the anxiety. They're taking charge, and then it's not going to ever solve the problem. So that's super important. Always encouraging malleability and flexibility. And as a caregiver, you can model that. You can model, oh my God, today I was expecting to be able to do something at work that you were really excited about. It didn't work. And oh well, right? Oh well, I was embarrassed to do that in front of my colleagues, but it's okay. It's okay. I don't mind. Just any way that you can model. We talked last time about rosebud and thorn, doing that at the dinner table, always having a thorn that you can model. How did you work through that? How did you problem solve that? How did you let go a little bit? And always remembering that doing your best, that phrase, can be really stressful. And sometimes you want to encourage students that it's okay. Whatever you've done, it's maybe good enough. And then finally, in the purple at the end, practice. Practice, practice, practice. And with every little step, celebrate. So when I started out talking about the bus, if you can get out the door, and that's as far as you can get that day, celebrate it. Don't be disappointed in your child. Don't say, oh my gosh, you can't even get to the bed. No, celebrate. That is awesome. You got out the door. Maybe tomorrow we can go a little further. Celebrate, whatever you can. So I think that brings us to our conclusion. We have some references here, but again, I want to applaud all the caregivers that are here or might see this tape, and your interest and your willingness to work on this with your child. It is not easy, but it can change. So I want to give you that message of hope and change as well. Tiana, do you want to add anything?
Thank you so much for your participation and being committed to supporting what's going on at home and supporting your child to working through these experiences, knowing that it's possible for things to feel better and that you too, you can also feel better about this. So thank you so much for your time and for the commitment of Quincy Public Schools to also offering and recognizing the support that can happen here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd just like to take a second just to thank you both so much. This was a really helpful presentation, and I do applaud the parents for showing up, and not giving up. Like, I think that message of hope for change and, hanging in there, it's a process. It's a marathon. But we do see success, and especially if we can partner with you, if we can help you, you need a team sometimes. And, all the counselors are willing, and the principals, they want to see these kids in school. They want them to be comfortable, feel safe. We'll get them through the day. And we want to just, help your child believe in that we'll help you. So thank you, everybody. This was really great. And I look forward to more parent academies. So with that, I just will wish everybody a good night. Thank you so much.